Welcome back to the program, everyone. So let's get to have that very critical conversation. This our Ambassador Joe Keshi joins us live on the program. He's a former permanent secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and a diplomat. He joins us live on the program. Thank you indeed, Ambassador, for agreeing to talk to us here on the program. I'm not sure what you made of that speech or address by the Vice President trying to collaborate or partner with other African countries, Ghana precisely, and all of that. But there are those who will say, do we need to collaborate, or do we need that partnership with Ghana for us to send a strong message to South Africa that no Nigerian life should be lost?
Thank you. Thank you and good morning. Yes, simply to your question. Bear in mind that the Afrophobia, or whatever we choose to call it now, did not happen to only Nigerians. It happened to Nigerians, Ghanaians, Sierra Leoneans, Togolese, for your information, and also a number of other countries in Southern Africa. And if we are to challenge it, and if we are to mount pressure on South Africa to review its immigration policies, there's a need for collaboration among all the countries in the continent. And by the way, only last week, the association of which I'm the president, Retired Career Ambassadors of Nigeria, held a Zoom meeting. And one of the recommendations that we want to sell to government is actually what they've done. That is that there's a need to engage South Africa. There's a need to cooperate with other, other states involved, to deal with this issue. And we gave we are trying to give one or two ideas on how this will be done in order to find an amicable way of sorting out the problem itself. And I can also tell you why this is a complex situation. Even while we are looking at collaboration, there are those who might want to probably do it bilaterally. I met a minister from one of the southern South African states just recently on my way to Mombasa last week. And she made it very clear that, look, and I raised the issue. I said, look, why do states that are involved, that suffered from the South African action, why didn't they come together and challenge South Africa at the point in time? Why did the AU not speak up? Why did the ECOWAS countries not speak up? And she quietly said to me, look, there are still millions of Zimbabweans out there, and we need to handle this very delicately. So that gives you a clear idea of what we are dealing with, regard to South Africa. So to your question, yes, cooperation, working together, it's one of the best ways to find a solution to this problem.
There are those who will say perhaps how alive or how awake is the AU?
Beg your pardon?
There are those who will question just how alive or how awake is the AU?
Well, true. We have also asked that same question. Because in moments like this, the AU, the African Union, should have taken the leadership, to speak up or to even visit South Africa. One of the strangest things I find today in diplomacy is that those who head a couple of African organizations and global organizations are not conducting diplomacy as it was conducted a few years ago. You could actually ask the same question of the United Nations. By the way, I was glad to hear that the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations was at Freetown for this AU meeting. But look, in times past, the President of the Commission of African Unity would have been in South Africa to talk with the South Africans. The United Nations would also have taken some action. But guess what? Everybody just sat in their respective offices and pretended that it's not happening. But it's still, people have died, people have been badly treated in the continent by a nation that we all collectively paid some sacrifice, to help them achieve freedom. And by the way, they don't even want to hear that you did anything. So fine, let's leave that aside. But the truth of the matter is that the action, the decision by the ECOWAS heads of state to approach this in a collective manner and diplomatically too, I think is the right thing to do.
Right thing to do, but at what timing? Isn't timing ought to have been considered prior to this time? I mean, it looks like it's coming after the fact. Nigeria has evacuated more than 1,000 of its citizens. Ghana has done the same amid these xenophobic attacks. As a matter of fact, South Africa bypassed Nigeria to go to Ghana to seek, a form of cooperation amid all of this. What can this possibly achieve coming at this timing? And then another factor to consider is that South Africa, I believe, belongs to the SADC community. What protocol should be adopted in demanding accountability and, an end to xenophobic Afrophobia in South Africa?
I understand where you're coming from, but again, I think you need to understand that as we speak, there are still many, many Africans in South Africa still faced with the same situation. So the issue of timing is never too late where we are today. And I'll tell you that there are still a couple of Nigerians that have not been airlifted, that do not want to go, but that are there trying to find how they can legalize their stay in that country. And so also quite a number of people from Southern Africa. So yes, you might think the timing is late, but the truth of the matter is that it's never too late to take up an issue and to try and resolve it. And I think that's where African nations, yes, they are just waking up. They probably have acted a little bit too late, but for the fact that they've decided to confront the issue frontally, I think is should be welcomed, and hopefully they will get somewhere.
Ambassador, do you think that South Africa is inadvertently isolating itself from the continent?
Of course, but South Africa doesn't see that. I've always said this, and I'll repeat myself. South Africa came into the international arena with some form of arrogance, and they have not stopped showing that arrogance. South Africa believes that when it came on board in the late 90s, because it had at that time the best economy, and everything that other African countries do not have, it did not even take due cognizance of the sacrifice that was made by a number of African countries, not just only Nigeria, by the way. And it approached its behavior. I mean, it started its behavior by trying to show that it was different and doesn't give a damn about our feelings or about what the rule says. Let me give you an example. Before South Africa came on board, there was a consensus when the Organization of African Unity was created that the big states within the continent will not vie for the post of the Secretary General of the Continental Organization. And that existed for a very long time. Soon as South Africa came, they just decided they wanted the leadership of the organization. And no matter what was said to them, they virtually refused, forced their friends in Southeastern Africa to support them. And then that broke the rule that has existed since the Organization of African Unity was created, and they're moving on to the AU. And you find this arrogance in a number of ways. But now I just think that for them at the end of the day, I sincerely hope that the crisis, this is not, look, we need to understand what's going on in South Africa. And I just think that this is the beginning of a rather huge problem for the people of South Africa themselves. If they don't know it, they better think that a lot is going to happen to them with what they've done.
Well, Ambassador, I know that we're having this conversation, but there are those who also perhaps question the character of some Nigerians and how we behave. For instance, there was a report as to a king being crowned, a Nigerian king being crowned in SA, which perhaps was maybe the bedrock of all of this, in this particular xenophobic attack. So, do you also think that that was called to question. Do you also think that maybe perhaps when Nigerians go to some countries, I mean, you don't need to go create a king in another man's land? Is that also something we need to watch as Nigerians? Because Nigerians are spread across countries of the world. So how do we behave and carry ourselves when we get to those countries?
I think I've been one of the most critical, given my knowledge and experience of how Nigerians behave in a number of countries, about the behavior of Nigerians. Look, I'm not sure you can do much about it. It's in our DNA. We are loud, we are noisy, we like show off. Even in this country itself, what do you think has fueled corruption? In Nigeria, for example, what do you think our behavior today? Look, the behavior we have at home is not different from the behavior of Nigerians, anywhere in the world. When I was permanent secretary, I actually approached some governors to say, look, we need to have a conversation, so that we organize, seminar, conferences, to tell your citizens that when they are going out to other countries, they need to know how to behave. In fact, somebody, just after, I think it was Channels actually, after I did a television interview with China about how Nigerians were being maltreated in China, somebody who came back from China, living in China, who came back that day, found his way to the foreign ministry and also said the permanent secretary. And he said, look, before you begin to go further on this issue, I want to show you a video of Nigerian behavior in China. I was shocked when I saw that video itself. So look, yes, it's one of the things, but guess what? It's not so much about the Nigerian behavior that has created the problem in South Africa. South Africa is going through its own trying period. The economy is not doing too well. The expectations of post-apartheid regime has not been felt by the black people of South Africa. And of course, there are other, forces at play, at work in today's South Africa. And so the people can't find a government to deal with, and they can only find the people on the street whom they accuse of taking their jobs. And by the way, I've said this on another forum that, look, when it comes to taking their jobs, Nigerians do not work in the mines. Because yes, in during an apartheid regime, for example, when they saw black South Africans working in the mines protest, mine owners, white mine owners, go and bring in Zimbabweans, Botswanans, people from Lesotho and so on to work in the mines, and they pay them, less than what they were paying the South Africans to keep the mines working. Now, this has also been part of what the people are protesting against when they say they are taking their job. But most of the Nigerians who went there, quite a large number of Nigerians who went there, created jobs in South Africa. And they employed South Africans, by the way. Yes, it's true. They took their women, they took their girls. For goodness sake, the Americans did the same all over the place where they sent soldiers and troops to. Go and find out how many children, Americans left behind or were, gave birth to in Vietnam, for example. This has happened.
Ambassador, we're totally pressed for time. Maybe in 20 seconds or less, there's a new sheriff in town in the UK. They have a new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. I'm just reading that he's set to remove value-added tax from household electricity bills in his first major policy announcement as PM this October.
Well, look, I watched his coronation yesterday as the new Prime Minister. I'm also aware of the fact that he's the seventh of the eighth in one decade. I also find very interesting some of the promises he has made to the people of Great Britain. He's a politician and apparently an astute politician for that matter. He has selected some very good people into the cabinet, well-experienced people, by the way, those who have also served in previous Labour administration. My position is, look, when you listen to politicians, you have to carry a mental beware sign and wait to see what happens in the next couple of months.
It's a fine place to anchor our conversation with you. Well, I'm not sure how many months it's going to last. Some would say, I'm not sure the last time I had a prime minister who did up to maybe 4 years.
No, there was a prime minister that lasted 3 months.
Yeah,
3 months. Well, we have to anchor. Thank you indeed, as always, Ambassador Joe Keshi, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also a diplomat. Thank you indeed, as always, for your insights here on the program.
Thank you.